and more proactively leverage agents and AI tools for the jobs to be done to build out their team without exponentially increasing the cost. It's helping teams get better speed to market, better programs, better velocity, better revenue contribution, and allow the humans to do the things that humans are best meant to do. It's a really exciting time to be in marketing.
I want to unpack that a little because from a sales perspective, and again, this is why we like you because you almost dance more in the sales world than you do the marketing world.
Well, it depends
It's
on how you think
all,
about marketing, right? Like if we're talking arts and crafts,
oh,
if we're talking arts and crafts, like like hey, listen, that book needs to be orange because orange is the color of light and dreams. I mean, that's part of marketing is brand and brand attributes. I'm a pipeline guy, right? And so everything I do for our clients is all focused on pipeline and revenue contribution. So I would not say that I'm a sales guy, but I like to think that I'm a marketing guy who understands and can speak the language of sales, which is hopefully why I'm partly here.
Well,
it
and I think
is.
it's, yeah, and I think it's a way that everybody needs to be thinking these days. We've talked so often on the podcast the fact that marketing and sales are really, really wrapped together. But I want to go back to where you started with how much has changed and said sound like a broken record with AI. What are, if I was on with a client today who just is like, God, we're so overwhelmed, we don't even know where to
Yeah.
start. What are some of the basics of AI that people should be using, people should be implementing to really fundamentally increase their marketing and their sales strategy and allow them to do best what they do best?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still value in having teams and individual experiment with what AI is possible. I think the best way for individuals to not feel like AI is intimidating and scary is just to start asking it questions. I think we run some workshops sometimes with marketers. We say start with something that is not work related, right? Create a recipe generator or create something that helps you manage a hobby. And you sort of really start to get to know like what it can and can't do right now, which obviously even those things will change quickly over time. But I would also then look at places where you are stuck. Look at places where there are constraints in your business, constraints on time, constraints on bandwidth, constraints on what technology and operations can do. And don't try to boil the ocean and do everything. Pick one place to pilot to start. It could be content production. It could be creative development. It could be digital campaign and asset testing. It could be lead routing or lead to account mapping. I mean, these are a handful of places we've seen companies see dramatic impact on AI's adoption. And what's key to that is not just treating it like a shiny object, not even treating it as a tool, but thinking of AI as infrastructure. How do you put it in place for something that's going to be needed done all the time so that you have consistent, repeatable, predictable results from it?
Hey, we've got a couple of questions that have come in. How do you define pipeline? Because that came in, in terms of because you said you were a pipeline guy.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
again,
everyone's got a
yeah,
different definition of it. I mean, to me, the only metrics that matter are those you can buy a beer with. So I care about revenue, I care about closed deals, I care about renewals, retention, upsell. But I think there's various stages of the pipeline you have to look at. I'll give you the three numbers that I watch in my own pipeline. So literally in my executive dashboard that we look at every Tuesday in our leadership team meeting, the number one number is like, what are we closing this quarter? Obviously, this quarter, impacting this quarter. What are we closing? What's our weighted pipeline that we think we can, that gives us an indication we think we're going to get there? The next number is net new pipeline created. That tells me for the next quarter how well we're likely set up to be able to close. And our close, our sales cycle is fast enough that I can look at that on a quarter by quarter basis. Deals are usually like 60 days or so, right? So I've got in quarter sales, I've got next quarter pipeline created, and then I have a number we call ICP target engaged, ideal customer profile target engaged. And every week I want to see a minimum number of people from the right companies, the right people with the right companies somewhere in our content. They could be go to a webinar, download a white paper, some research, click on something on our website, etc. And that metric shows me that I am healthy in quarters 3 plus. So I'm already starting to think about pipeline in Q2, not setting up demos, not opening opportunities, but just engaging the right people at the right companies. A layer underneath that, I say, okay, like how did I hit that? How am I hitting that number this quarter? How am I hitting that pipeline number? And so we have campaign sources on all of those different efforts. So I know, did it come from a marketing campaign? Did it come from an event? Did it come from natural sort of inbound? And how many of those sources are repeatable, renewable, predictable, and scalable so that I know in future quarters I can rely on those sources again. That's how we manage it. And so, like, and we're a small consulting firm, but there's a version of that we typically recommend and implement for a lot of our clients as well.
Hey, Matt, you
Nice.
just gave us a 2 minute master class on understanding, right? I mean, Mayor, I mean, wasn't that brilliant what you
Completely.
just
It was,
shared?
yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. What do I think one of the biggest things, one of the biggest challenges we all have in today's marketplace is standing out in the marketplace, is getting noticed, is getting visible. I mean, we all seem to
Yeah.
sell the same thing as our competitors. What are some of your thoughts and some of your strategies around that? Or how has the marketing funnel flipped to basically get, create visibility and stand out in a crowded marketplace?
I mean, it's real, right? Especially with like long, complex deals. And the latest research I've seen says that, the buyers don't want to engage with a seller in a buying conversation until like 80% of the way through the buying
Yeah.
process. And yet 73% of those buyers are going to work with the first seller they engage with. So you want to be in the conversation early, but the buyer doesn't want you engaged till the end. What that really means is they don't want a demo right now, right? They don't want to talk to a salespeople. We are so enamored, and look, I'm in this boat as well. Like I want to move deals faster, but we're so enamored with getting the demo meeting or the capabilities meeting, we miss the opportunity to create any kind of value that differentiates us. Sometimes I'll call this value deposit. Let me give you an example of this. We've got some clients where they have BDR teams, the inside sales reps, inbound and outbound. Their objective is not to set a meeting. Their objective is to create value in the conversation. What if I told you that in that conversation, you have two jobs as a sales rep? One is to not talk about your product or service at all. Could you do that? Could you just talk about the issues and problems and pain points the prospect has so that you show that you understand that? And two, could you provide enough insight and guidance on that call so that at the end of the 30, 45 minutes, whatever, the prospect leaned back and said, well, I would have paid for that. I would have
Mm.
paid for that insight. That was really valuable to me. Did you get a deal out of that? No. Did you even get an opportunity out of that? Maybe not. But you now have credibility and preference. Because let's face it, like most of the time when we're driving by someone's, or when we're doing sales and marketing efforts, it's kind of like driving by someone's house at 35 miles an hour, trying to throw something in the mailbox, right? You're going to miss a lot. And then every once in a while you get something in there. And it better not be too salesy or it's going to hit the recycle bin before it even gets in the front door. Our job as go-to-market managers and leaders and practitioners is to build value in every interaction as early and often as possible so people want to pick up the phone when you call. So they want to save and open that email when they see something from you. That is not a short-term thing, but if you're managing long, complex deals, you have to be in with the buying committee members early and often.
I want to get you to unpack this because, again, what you're giving us a masterclass. How do you create that right content that you're throwing at the doorstep
Hmm.
so it doesn't wind up in the recycling bin?
Yeah. I mean, you have to understand your prospects with a high level of depth and precision, right? Because I think a lot of times we write our content based on what we want to say. But before someone cares about you, they're going to care about themselves. Like I don't know if you guys have seen The Frame Making Sale, the new book by Brent Adamson. He says like it's about building confidence. And the confidence you need to build is not confidence in you, the vendor. The prospect needs to have confidence in themselves, that they're doing the right things, that they're prioritizing the right decisions, that they're addressing the right problems. So you don't always have to give them answers, but can you give them guidance? Can you give them reframes? Can you give them commercial insights that help them make better, more confident decisions internally? Before they're going to get to a demo with you, they have to reach a commitment to change internally, right? Not just for themselves, but with a committee of people where you have to have confidence in yourself and confidence as a group that you should spend time, effort, energy, and pain moving forward to do something different to achieve a different outcome. So that's the framework. What goes into that is whatever those issues are, right? How well do you understand the problems your prospects know that they have? How well can you identify and quantify problems that your prospect doesn't know that they have? Like, don't call them and ask them what keeps them up at night. Call them and tell them what should to keep them up at night. When I talk to CIOs in your job, I hear the same three things when I ask them, what are the biggest problems that you have? List those three things off and then say, like, hey, of those three things, which of those made you sweat a little more than the others because you're dealing with it right now and you haven't really solved it? Or, better yet, which of those things I just listed have you not been thinking about at all? But now that you know that the rest of the CIOs in your market are thinking about, would you like to know why? Why they're prioritizing that? I tell you, we say, well, you can't have a young, BDR have this conversation. Hell yeah, you can, right? Like this is not about having the answers. It's about oftentimes having the right questions that earn the next part of the conversation. So I think there's a lot of ways you can identify those needs. There's a lot of ways you can test and validate which of them have the most resonance across marketing and sales channels. And I think that's how you get in early. That's how you earn the trust and attention of your prospects early in that buying cycle.
How do you know in today's marketplace how much of your sales process should be marketing and how much should be sales in the traditional definitions of the word?
Yeah, I mean when you say traditional, like when I think about that, I think about a funnel.
Yes.
It's kind of split horizontally in the middle, right? Or marketing's doing stuff at the top and throwing collateral leads out, and sales says, "Okay, I got it." I tend to think, especially with complex long sales cycles, we can still manage a funnel. Like let's not pretend like it's like it's we've seen the demos that sort of like we have to manage a process. But instead of being split horizontally, I see those funnels split vertically with a diagonal bend, right? Where I think most of the jobs to be done at the top are marketing, most of the jobs to be done at the bottom are sales. But I think getting sales and getting a relationship going early and often is highly valuable, especially when it's not demo related and when it's building credibility in your insights. Credibility is not attached to a building, it's not attached to a white paper. It sticks with a human. So having the human involved early and often is best. Conversely, or at the same time, if it's the end of the sales process and like sales is like in the trenches trying to get that deal done at the end of the quarter, I want marketing there too. And a lot of marketing teams would say, "Well, I've already generated the leads, you got all your content, it's all up to you." What if it's the last week of the quarter and you got like one or two members of the buying committee that aren't yet bought off? I want a marketing team that will create content for an audience of one. What if that's the
Mm.
deal that makes or breaks your quarter? Why would they not be in the room? Why would they not custom create something? You want to build credibility with sales? Like when they're in the trenches, don't be at the bar, celebrating your retweet goal. Get in the war room with them and figure out how you can support them. So I think if you can atomize the jobs to be done along that entire funnel, you'll figure out like where do I need people? Where do I need departments? Where do I need agents or technology? There's plenty of work to be done, right? And I think the more you can separate those out and not have those territorial battles, I don't know if we'll get into attribution, but as soon as you start getting into attribution and who gets paid and who gets the credit, this all becomes political and all falls apart.
You've really taken marketing and taken it down to the micro level versus the macro level. Traditionally, we look at marketing as being macro,
Yeah,
creates the awareness, the brand equity. You're saying you're really putting it on and taking it right down tight.
it's
How
both.
do
It's both.
yeah, I mean, again, you're making a full value argument for the role it plays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's jobs to be done that are that macro job. Like I have to, like if I think about like buying stages, buying journey stages, there's awareness of the problem. There's priority of the problem. There's loosening of the status quo, and eventually there's a commitment to change. So even just awareness is too general, right? I need to have some guided awareness. I need to have some directional awareness. I need to have a positive perception, right? Like when that car drives by your house at 35 miles an hour, you don't always check the mailbox, but like, ooh, I like that car. I don't mean that in a stalker way, but like, there's reputation that goes along with that as well. But these things don't just happen. And this is where I think a lot of companies fall down is that like they understand those stages. And they say, well, let's do some press releases or let's go to events and we'll be the silver sponsor at the yada yada conference or whatever. I mean, those may be some of the right tactics, but you have to get really detailed. Like the playbook followed by the most successful go-to-market teams, sales and marketing, have these crazy detailed workflows, if then statements, right? That also orchestrate engagement between not just sales and marketing, but sales and marketing channels, right? Some are digital, some are offline, some are experiential, some are email, some are phone calls. But the better you can orchestrate all that effort together, the not only the more are you more efficiently able to create awareness interest from your prospect, but you can do it in a more predictable, repeatable way. This isn't just about doing it once. It's about doing it over and over again so that your forecasts are right, so that your marketing investments bear out, so that you can come back to the organization and say, like, forget, oh, you give me $1 and I'll generate three. It's like, I need to generate a profitable sale on a repeat basis. What are the things I need to do to make that happen? If you've got the building blocks, if you understand the detail around how that happens, you're going to be far more successful and repeatable and predictable moving forward.
How much do you think in today's marketplace the marketing strategy needs to be updated, shifted, or changed?
I'm laughing because I remember, a long time ago working at Microsoft, and we would build like 2-year marketing plans, right? And you'd spend months working on this, reiterations, versions. Eventually, you would present it to some fire-breathing executive that hated most of it, but eventually signed. I said, okay, fine. You'd go back to the office and you would take that binder and you'd plop it in a desk and say, okay, like now what are we going to do? Like you're sort of back, either back to the drawing board or just like going and executing and responding and reacting. I would argue those long-term plans have always been fraught, and today I just think they're just unnecessarily entirely. I think you need to know where you're going. You need to know what the end goal is. You need to have an objective and have a general sense for how you're going to get there. But given how fast markets change, given how fast technology changes, given how fast buyer behavior and buyer preferences change, you need to be more agile in that. Now, I would say agile marketing oftentimes is being used as an excuse for not having a strategy at all. So this isn't about coming in on Monday and just say, what do we want to do this week, right? We use EOS as our operating system internally, which means we have a goal for the end of 1 year, and we have a direction for the end of 3 years, right? So there's a number I want to hit in 2025, and quarter by quarter we make our way there. And there's a number I have in mind for the end of 2027, 28, depending on how you do the math. That number is a guidepost to say, what do we need to hit this year and what do we need to invest in to be able to get there again? And in EOS, you never get to that 3-year number. Every year you set the marker again a year forward. So you're always looking at this 3-year, like, what do we think the business should be? And I'll tell you what's valuable about that is that, like, every year you see different opportunities. Every year, different opportunities and threats come up. And so to be able to make adjustments to hit the next 12 months, but to think in terms of the next 36 is really valuable. And I think a lot of the smartest marketing teams are doing something somewhat similar, but on a shorter time frame. Like, what are we doing? How do we impact pipeline this quarter? How do we impact deals this quarter, next quarter? What are we doing to have the building blocks that'll have us hit the number we need to hit in Q2 of next year, even if you don't know what that Q2 number is, right? But
Yeah.
as long as we're in business in this market, we're going to have to do some of this. And so there's the knowns, there's the known unknowns, and then you just get to work.
You are giving us a masterclass time and time again here. I want to unpack this because we have a lot of small business owners, a lot of solopreneurs on this call, I would imagine. And how do you marry the two? Because you said early on AI and the tools that we can
Yep.
use, and is there a framework that you would suggest people use?
Yeah, it's this. I mean, I think what I'm describing is something that we use with a lot of our larger enterprise clients and just at scale. But
Okay.
that when, I talked about like current month, next month, like the ICP targets engaged, like we're a 12-person consulting firm. But we do that, right? Because I need to know where my payroll is going to come from. I need to know how to direct our team given the market, given competitive landscape, given what's changing. I need the tools and insights to make better decisions as well. And I would say even if it was just me, I'd have a version of that to do as well. I don't know if you ever read The E-Myth, either of you, by Michael
Yeah.
Gerber?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
I think about that book all the time, like because I think it was so instrumental in me understanding 17 years ago when I started this business, it was just me and a laptop. I didn't intend to build anything. It was just going to be me consulting. The E-Myth, most of the time we see E, it's electronic, right? In this case, it's the entrepreneur myth. And if you haven't, for those that haven't read it, the myth is that if you're good at something, you can be successful running a business based on that. You make great cookies. You should start a bakery, right? Maybe, maybe not. And Michael Gerber says you have to be good at three things no matter what your business is. You need to be good at what you're selling, making cookies. You need to be good at operating the business today, just keeping the trains running, keeping things going. You need to be enough of a visionary in where your business is going so you're pointing your business in that direction. You don't need to be you don't need to be a fortune teller, but you need to be thinking beyond today, this week, the next payroll. And there's various levels of complexity and detail you can get into that. But I think even if you're a small business thinking about listening to this, You don't need all the tools. You don't need all the technology. The minimum, if you're going to do account-based marketing, the minimum tech stack is a spreadsheet and a telephone, right? Just get the strategy right and do it at the right scale for your business.
You just blew up some myths right there. That the idea that you need this tech stack that is so complicated and so overwhelming. You just blew that up right there. But you also blew up another one because so many small business owners think what they have to do is so different from what the bigger kids do. No, it's the same thing. You're just doing
It's
a
different
smaller,
scale. And
it's
and
a
I
different
would and I
scale.
don't want to poo-poo the tech stack and investments because they're
Mhm.
critical. I mean, and I will say for a company of our size, we have probably an oversized tech stack, right? Like we use AI significantly. I'm in Salesforce every day. We use Marketo and Outreach and a number of tools that I think a lot of companies don't prioritize, in part because it's what our clients use, and in part because like it's what we're comfortable with. But like the tool is the tertiary priority, right? Strategy first, process second, technology third. And if you nail your strategy and create a process you can follow, you may find that the scale of that process required, you could just do with a piece of paper, right? Or you can do in email and you don't need a CRM system. So depending on what you're trying to achieve will dictate what you execute on. You may eventually find that doing it manually or doing it with a spreadsheet or doing it, just in your inbox just does not scale well. And then you can start look at tools to automate, tools to speed up, tools to make your life easier.
But so much what you just said there, so many people flip it around the other way. They start with technology, then they go to process, then they go to strategy
Yeah.
because they get caught up in the shiny tools.
Well, I can't tell you how many times someone will call and say, "Hey, I just bought this tool. What should we do with it?" And I'll be like, "Why did you buy it?" Well, the salesperson called and said we needed it. What? Why? What's your value proposition? What's the value translation? Well, we've heard about account-based whatever, and we figured we need a tool to do that. I'm like, well, there's your, what they say about assumptions. So in strategy and process does not have to be a big long conversation. Sometimes like it can be a short meeting. Just say, what direction are you going? What are you trying to achieve this year? Like I've had a lot of companies actually say, hey, can you come help us build pipeline? I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. I said, but can we first sit down and talk about like what are your corporate objectives? Like what are you trying to hit over the next few selling periods? And what are your corporate objectives? Meaning, like, are you trying to raise another round of funding? Are you trying to get sold? Do you have private equity involved, and therefore, like EBITDA and like more profit efficient growth is important? And I'm so surprised still that some people are like, why do you need to know any of that? Just go build pipeline. Like, unless you understand where the business is going, how can you be responsible with that effort and that budget to go in the right direction? I've had some companies that are, if they're trying to get their next round of funding, you're trying to validate that there's a market need, they will spend 100% of lifetime value for certain logos just because that logo unlocks the next round of funding. That's not scalable. But the stage of the company, that may be important. I've got other companies right now that are private equity based that are like, I need you to be 20-30% more contributive to EBITDA from marketing, right? You better understand what that means. You better understand what are the levers to do that, right? Those are different go-to-market priorities that lend themselves to different sets of strategies and tactics. But knowing the basis of that, knowing like what the business, where the business is going, tell you what, man, when you can get a marketing team that speaks the language of the CFO and is asking those kind of questions, credibility goes up big time.
Yeah, which is really the name of the game. I mean, would you say like what are the three big things that marketing is trying to do for the sales team in today's marketplace? Like I used to think of it as just get us leads, but it seems
Yeah.
to be so much more than that these days.
I love that you asked this question. I've thought for a while that one of the most important priorities for a chief marketing officer is to create and maintain product market fit. What that means is I need you to understand the market so well that you're not just creating better positioning, you're defining better product roadmaps. You're continuing to build and manage a product portfolio that your prospects desperately need. Your sales team needs leads. Leads are a manifestation of a market that craves what you're selling. If you can tie what the market needs to what you provide, not only do you have a more natural narrative, you can define marketing qualified, sales qualified, whatever, like hand raisers. What you need to do as a marketing leader, what we need to do as those supporting marketing is enhance and to maintain that product market fit. Create a market that demands to talk to you. That's a lot easier said than done in a
Right.
competitive market, in a noisy market. You may have that nailed, by the way, and you still can't get the attention of your prospect because they have 4,000 other emails in their inbox, right? So there's a whole execution challenge around that. But if you're noisy, or if you're imprecise, or if you're prioritizing something to you as a big priority, but to the prospect is priority number 23, you got no chance.
Exactly.
Hey, if any of you have got questions that are listening in, feel free to pop them into the Q&A. Because again, Matt's been giving us a masterclass. Matt is the president of Heinz Marketing. Appropriately, his last name is Heinz, so that's good. Hey, Matt, tell us a little bit what you see happening next year, 2026. Where is what's the trend that we as a sales community need to be aware of?
Um, well, and I'm gonna filter this for those of us that are working those more complex, longer sales processes. If you're doing like product-led growth, if you're doing mostly online sort of digital sales, that's a different motion. I think relationships are going to become more important than ever. I think we're going to see manifestation of those relationships in a wide variety of formats. We're going to have sales teams craving, just like always, to get out in the market, and we're going to see marketing teams finally prioritizing creating more of those field events and field activations. I want marketing teams to stop thinking about campaigns and start thinking about experiences. They can be one and the same, but in a sea of sameness, where we have all these automated AI SDR tools that are just flooding the market with messages. What are you doing to create something different? What are you doing to create something special? What are you doing to create a moment that the prospect will retain and remember? So to me, if I think about what I need to do in market, relationships and experience-driven marketing bubble up to me as things that the companies that want to differentiate, that want to break through and really create sustained momentum, trust, and credibility with the prospect. I think those are things that are going to be prioritized next year.
Is that blowing your mind away, Mayor? What he's
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, it's just it's really good stuff. For for it's just marketing at a whole nother level. I mean, we always say in today's marketplace that marketing and sales really need to be very, very integrated.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that I came up in a world where marketing sat on one side of the building and sales sat on the other, and it
Yeah.
wasn't great, but it was fine. It didn't really
Yeah.
matter. I didn't
Yeah.
need marketing to get in the door. I didn't need marketing to follow up on my sales. It's funny to me now, I'm a one woman operation, but I still have a marketing arm
Mhm.
of my of my whole sales process. So when you
Mhm.
think about people out there right now, salespeople, what should they, because I'm wondering for people who aren't fortunate enough to work with somebody like you, what should they be expecting from their marketing team? How do I know if my relationship is right, if my relationship is solid? What should I be looking for?
It's a great question. I mean, we've been talking about sales and marketing alignment for a long time, and when people ask me what's the biggest challenge or the biggest potential roadblock to companies succeeding next year, it is sales and marketing alignment, right? Because
Yeah,
like what happens at sales kickoff, jazz hands, we all believe the same thing, we're all in this together. Like unless you actually translate SKO to Tuesday, right? Like Tuesday morning
yeah.
happens and a lead comes in. Like, is that a good lead or bad lead? Have we seen that lead before? Does anyone else at that company work with them? Who should it go to? What should we say? Like, there's a bunch of if-then statements just based on like one little action. And if we don't have a playbook for what happens there, it's probably what happens to Wednesday is going to be different. What happens Thursdays is going to be different. And so, Mark, you were saying earlier, like getting down to brass tacks and getting down to the detail, like this is where the rubber meets the road. Like I don't care about SKO, sort of, PowerPoints if we can't nail Tuesday. So if you're a sales rep, you don't control, unfortunately, what your CMO is going to say or prioritize. You don't control whether Tuesday gets playbook driven or not. What I would say is like don't fixate as much on leads as you do today. Focus on
Mm,
a market that responds to you. If you didn't have leads, but you were able to call on prospects, and you're like, yeah, I've heard of you guys. Or yeah, boy, I went to your webinar last, but that was totally different. Or you know what, I read something that one of your execs put on LinkedIn, and it just really helped me rethink X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Right? Whatever those things are, if you can prioritize a market that leans in. If you can advocate for a market that understands who you are. Let me give you an example of that. So Smartsheet, right? Project management tools. Their heritage as a business was very product-led growth. Like you sign up for a trial and we convert you. And they went through a process of learning how to really do strategic selling at an enterprise level. And obviously very successful, went public, tons of success stories there. They realized that they weren't getting opportunities outside of the US at the rate that they wanted to, right? And so they weren't in the RFP consideration set as often as they wanted to. So long story short, they still have a partnership with McLaren Racing and have for years now done work with Formula One. And they've been brilliant at how they leverage that with customers and prospects. They've got a PR play that ties into like they don't have their logo on the boat on the car. They have nonprofit logos on the car in every market. So every market a new nonprofit, every market a new PR hit that makes Smartsheet look good and makes Smartsheet look like they care about the market and care about, causes. And lo and behold, now their presence in the international market has grown. They've got more inbound. They're getting more RFP inclusions. When the sales team calls on people, there's awareness of the brand and there's a positive association with the brand. Now, you may not be in the market for a project management tool and you may not even know what kind of features Smartsheet has that can solve for you. But the job to be done was not just awareness, but preference and interest. Now, sales, do your thing.
Really powerful. Mark, we've got a question up here. Matt, we've got a question up here. I really want to dig into this more. Is Matt's book, Full Funnel Marketing, the book to read? Is that the right one?
Yeah, so I would say yes. I would say there's a second edition of that we published last year that is updated content. Hopefully you're looking at the second edition. What I love about that book is that I wrote none of it. Our team wrote all of it. So it is a phenomenal book. It covers the entire funnel. It covers the entire customer journey from strategy down to tactics. And it's everything that our team's doing all day long for clients. So I'd say full funnel marketing for sure. But given how fast things have changed, like as soon as I say we published that last year, you're like, I mean, there's things we're doing for clients that weren't even possible at the beginning of this year. So I would say like check out our blog, check out what I'm putting on LinkedIn. This is an important time to continue to read books, but focus on real-time content, podcasts like this, video series, things that are coming out in real time that can augment some of the fundamentals. I mean, one of my favorite marketing books of all time is Scientific Advertising. It was written by Claude Hopkins in 1921. Right. And I can go into all the reasons why I love that book, but I think it's still a really important fundamental marketing book that just happens to be 104 years old. Supplement that with how you would think about scientific advertising in the age of AI, how you would think about relationship building in a really noisy, divisive, competitive space. And that's where I think you really get the magic is the classics with the cutting edge.
That's
Mark,
incredible.
one
We
more
we
question.
we have one more question, and it comes from Gene. It says, I'm launching a new intelligent bot that will at least 2x current ad spend by offering the ability to turn a static ad into an interactive sales experience that launches instantly from a QR or link. What would you focus on first to get this message out to the market? And then you can build this person later on. So
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a few things there. One is like, why do I care about that improvement? Right? I mean, there's a lot of really interesting tools out there that do interesting things. I think I may have heard this from you once on the road, Mark. Like, if you give a message, and if the prospect's gonna say, like, why do I give a crap about that? Right? Answer that question and keep answering it until you don't get to lullabies and lollipops. But like, if I need that, if I'm in the market for that kind of a tool or innovation, what is the problem I'm trying to solve today that is not as successful as I need it to be? Like, and I can tell you just as someone who does this all day long, like most marketers are doing 3 times the work to get half the results these days because of the noisiness, because of the tools, because of a whole bunch of sort of challenges that are in front of you. Those that succeed are finding improvements in point solutions. So if I have finite inventory and I've got finite attention, when I do have someone engaging with that ad, how do I get a marginal point improvement in response and engagement and conversion? And what would that math look like? And maybe your target market isn't those that are like doing some, really niche ads. Maybe it's more sort of broader market ads where like even a small incremental change in conversion rate creates a massive change in lift in terms of revenue for them. So I'm pontificating a little bit just knowing only this much, right? But I'm thinking like don't talk about the technology, don't talk about the feature, but what's the metric on the scorecard of your target audience that this is going to impact? I'd start there and then work back to, are you curious how I do that?
That is powerful. Matt, you're brilliant. Hey, we got about 2 minutes left here, and then we're going to go behind the curtain with just the mastermind members. Give us a couple parting words of wisdom, as if you haven't already.
Um, oh God. I mean, like my brain just kind of floods with things. I think, the older I get, the more mistakes I make.
Obviously, your brain floods with things. You're freaking brilliant.
Hello.
Um, here's where I don't know if this is where you thought I was going to go, but this is where I'm going to go. For a long time, I thought our purpose as a business was to help revenue responsible marketing teams build predictable pipeline. And over the course of going through our process of onboarding EOS and building what in the system is called the Vision Traction Organizer, I realized that's not our purpose, that's our niche. That's what we do. But why do we do it? Like, what's our purpose for doing it? And so the stated purpose we've now had for 3 years is to positively impact careers and lives by enabling work that matters. And the two parts of that statement are really important to me. The work that matters is what we've been talking about for 40 minutes. It's not arts and crafts marketing. It's not volume-based marketing. It's not vanity metrics. It's marketing that drives performance for the business. It's marketing that drives performance on the metrics that your sales team and your CFO and your board care about. Work that matters is just focused on things that you can buy a beer with. But the first part of that statement, to positively impact careers and lives, I think about a lot. We have a community of CMOs. We got about 3,500 CMOs that are in a Slack group and that meet every Friday. Not all of them meet every Friday, but that's a free community, that we run in partnership with Sixth Sense, our partner on that. And it's for 5.5 years we've covered personal and professional topics, and I've heard from people of the impact it's had on career, the opportunity to engage with others, and it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work, but it's tied to our purpose. And I firmly believe sometimes there's things you do tied to your purpose that you don't directly get paid for, but are the right thing to do. We have and I know we're gonna run out of time. For 5 years, we've done occasional campaigns we call CMOs Give Back. And we've raised over $140,000 for a wide variety of causes, international and domestic. And we've got one running right now for Feeding America, knowing that the holiday season's coming up. There's over 70 billion people in the US where hunger is a regular problem. We've got federal government shutdown as we record this, where a bunch of people are about to not have a paycheck in a couple days. And there's federal food assistance programs that could end in a couple days if we don't fix this as well. And so we've said, listen, we can't fix it, but we can solve for a few people. And so I'm proud to be part of a community that can occasionally do some give back programs like that as well. So positively impacting careers and lives is not just clients, it's also the people and the communities around us.
That is a
That's
perfect way
beautiful.
to end, isn't it, Mayor?
Really, really. I could not agree with you more on the whole on being purpose driven, because until you are purpose driven, you will never get to the next level. You can do every tactic in the world, but if you are not, it's so, so important. And sometimes you do just do things for free because they're the right things to do and they're in alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
Matt, we want to say thank you. We've been talking today with Matt Heinz, president of Heinz Marketing. And of course, if you want to follow him, jump out to Heinz Marketing. He's all over LinkedIn also. And of course, his book, like he talked about, second edition, go out to Amazon to get that. Matt, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Sales Logic Expert Exchange. And we're going to say goodbye to everybody on the call now. The members, you got the link, and we'll meet you over there in just a moment.
Can't wait.